Hi, I'm an introvert. About a year and a half ago now, I joined a Big Four consulting firm. In this video, I want to talk to you quite candidly about what it's like being an introvert in consulting. This video will be in three parts. Part one, I'll give you a short answer. Part two, I'll give you the advantages and where I feel like I've benefited from being an introvert. And part three is the juicy part where I'll tell you all the challenges that I've had. So to begin with, a very quick answer is yes, you'll be absolutely fine as an introvert in consulting. There is a range of people from all sorts of not only backgrounds but also types of personalities. Of course, there's some common factor of who gets into consulting, who chooses to apply to consulting in the first place. But I have found that there's a really wide range and very many introverts and extroverts and ambiverts. I personally would say that I'm a very sociable introvert, but that is a recent addition to my life. I think all my life I've been very, very happy being independent and by myself, and I love spending time alone. Before, maybe in my school time, that was also very much linked to me being insecure and very quiet, very shy, just kind of being awkward at social things. So I was never the popular girl. I was never part of the popular gang of kids. I would be on good terms with people, but I wouldn't be the cool one myself. And I think over the past 2-3 years, I'd say in my mid 20s, I think I've gained so much more confidence and I've become way more sociable as a result of it. That being said, I'm still really, really introverted. And I think the common misconception is that introverts are shy and insecure. Whereas the whole thing about introversion, extroversion is where do you get your energy from? Is it from being alone or having one-on-one interactions, like the very small close circle of people? Or do you get your energy from interacting with a lot of people and having a very buzzing and dynamic social life? My most preferred way of catching up with someone is one-on-one. I think the big things where I meet a lot of new people and it's very active, I love doing that, but in moderation. So that's kind of an overview of where I'm at. I call myself a sociable introvert. Some people would say it's an ambivert, but I'll happily go on a solo trip for a week. Now, moving on to the advantages that I think the introversion has brought me when it comes to consulting specifically. Number one is that I think introverts are generally leaning towards being the listener in a lot of conversations. I have noticed that in client calls, a lot of the time, I'll be the one kind of observing and actively listening to what people are saying, their body language, their emotions, the undertones, and I would notice a lot of things and little nuances that maybe someone who's more loud or active and just speaking would not necessarily pick up on because their role is different. So I think that's advantage number one, which has been huge. Advantage number two, I think, is something that I've noticed in my life generally as well, is that the circle of friends or work friends that I have is very small, and the people I would actually talk to about maybe the more difficult stuff or what I'm struggling with, it's literally a handful of people. Quite honestly, probably 3 if I'm precise. I really enjoy that, but that's because I get my energy from one-on-one interactions, and that leans more towards fewer people but deeper connections. Neither is good or bad, but I really enjoy the deeper connections that I do have with the few friends that I have made it work. Now, onto the juicy stuff, which is all the struggles that you might encounter as an introvert. Not necessarily, not to scare you off. I think it's all fine. As I said at the beginning, you'll be okay. But there are a few things that I have found that as an introvert, you're maybe a little bit disadvantaged in. Number one is building client relationships. I've been on 3 projects now, and I think in all of them, I naturally resorted to being the listener. Shout out to section before this where active listening is really cool. But I think for clients, when things need to get done and you're on calls, naturally you will more and more resort to the person who has been speaking more because you think that they're more confident in answering because they're actually saying things. I think that has meant so far that I have struggled to be the go-to person for clients. Of course, that's also related to my grade because I'm an analyst. I'm the most junior person in the team a lot of the time. But even that aside, I do think that some people that I know from my cohort who are more extroverted, who are more outspoken, they much more quickly become the go-to person for the client. And then that leads to good feedback. That leads to people being like, oh, they're very, proactive and very reliable, which I think with the same success an introverted person could be. It's just that it takes that, the speaking up takes energy. And I don't always do it naturally. So it's something that I know I need to work on to be more active and not passive in conversations, but it doesn't come easily to me. Linked to that is the feedback that you get and promotions and the talent reviews. A lot of the time we hear the thing where in consulting, a lot of stuff is about visibility and who has seen and heard you. And I think that's quite true. I guess there is effort being made to try and even that out and make sure that people's work is seen if they're doing quality work, but not necessarily shouting about it. But shouting about it will help you. It's not ideal. I don't love it. I think I'm very bad at shouting about my work. Even in talent reviews, you have to prepare a one-pager where you say what you've done. Some people just have the ability to really sell themselves so much better than I do. I don't know how linked that is to introversion, but I do think the fact of speaking more about yourself and being louder in the room brings you certain advantages in consulting that I probably haven't had because I'm quite introverted and naturally a bit more on the listening side of things. And finally, another point I want to mention is the dreaded word of networking. I know how much consulting relies on networking and I love and hate it. I love it because that means you meet a lot of people and it's really encouraged for you to put coffee catch-ups in with literally anyone that you find on the internal network. You can just approach them and be like, hey, I'm really interested in this thing you've done. Do you have half an hour to grab a coffee together? Most likely they'll say yes, and I really, really like that. I've met some really cool people in the industry I'm interested in, specifically media and entertainment is where I'm trying to get to, and I really enjoy that aspect. But again, if you are an introvert, you know that that's exhausting sometimes, and making small talk and starting from scratch with a new person, it can take a lot of energy out of you, and you just have to be careful with managing that. I think so far, honestly, I've been fine. I've been enjoying the social aspect of it because in my personal life, I do have pockets of time here and there to be by myself and go for a walk. And, I spend time by myself enough to feel balanced in my interactions and not feel burnt out by the sociability of consulting. But if you are maybe less sociable than myself, for example, it might be a bit challenging in an environment where socials happen literally every day. There is some sort of social for something where it's a ton of people in the same place, and networking does lead to getting opportunities and being staffed on better projects, or at least the ones that you want to do personally. Socializing is an inevitable part of consulting, I think. It doesn't have to be on overdrive all the time. I think it's all about balance and trying to make it work for you. I'll see how I get on going forward and we'll report back. But for now, that's all I wanted to tell you about. Not an exhaustive list. Of course, there's so much more. If there's anything particular you want me to talk about, do let me know. But for now, I'll say bye and I'll see you in the next video.